How often I get
And to see, you're so confident. What's that? Yeah, that was great. Amazing. Yeah.
I can best I
I just think when you're down after the whole day. Bring us portable electricity, bring portable. Just the way it is. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
we went years ago. Not that
Candidates are all standing in the way out there.
So you're gonna go ahead and talk about the questions, so they understand about the questions and signing in and so forth before I pick them up. She's doing her speech.
See,
Like,
right? So you can see us actually.
that's what it's doing. And they're sitting down. So
Carpenter.
Oh, good. Thank you.
oh, that's
Oh, yeah.
This is my life.
This is what Tom feels.
Yes. Obviously, I would like to go like this. It's okay if I take with my chair, it's okay, get personally.
You know, when I speak, I do that too. Like, I address this side,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
I like to look
Yeah.
at this side.
So it's gonna
Close
be
do we have to be to the mic?
interesting.
Is this close enough?
Hello. Right there. That's almost uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's a little weird. It might get a little bit steamy here.
He said if we were hot, if we have coats or jackets.
Okay. Okay. All right, that's fine.
What do you think of this facial bag? Actually, like nervous.
Probably. Depends on what they ask.
I have.
I go
Yeah.
Thursday, the 6th, September 6th.
I don't know whether it's best to go and get it over with, or whether it's
Get it over.
Yeah.
That would be my vote. It's because I have it over with. I got one, and it was a toughie. It was a good one. It was a zinger. So it was a hot question. It was about how I feel about the conflict of interest. I have a spouse working for the district, and I'd be saving salary. So, all right, well, good.
I thought it was hard because you don't have any objects sticking feedback when you talk. And so you're sitting there and you're talking to a blank school.
Yeah.
Nick across. So
You're talking to yourself, essentially.
Oh, I've got to be right here. Okay, right there. Okay. Lean in.
That's actually the question. Like, you would have the autonomy to say, hey, I'm going to write
Just lean right in.
Well, that's part of my answer. It's like,
You better move it because I can't come up any closer.
we're shielded by the salary schedule where I couldn't just give her a promotion and a salary.
Okay.
I'll give it right. Everybody.
Yeah. To me, that's a question of who you aside and not wait till you.
Okay, yeah, that would be.
You know, it's, sometimes it's just to get that kind of smack in the face right out of the back, and you kind of.
I suppose I could have.
Uh-oh. Is that wrong? Right on my nose. All right. Oh, yeah, you can hear it.
It's nice. If I could sit like this, I sat like this. And
Well, they have a bigger mic too, don't they? And you can kind of.
Hello, Vivian.
Right, exactly.
How close? Like how close are you talking right now?
Yes.
Or can you extend it?
It is.
Smiling.
There you go. Yeah. Oh.
They really are. I always wondered what Tom was seeing.
Schaefer's a bad word. I've heard it for 2
Dr.
years.
Coleman in there grooving out some music. Just like it's
Yeah.
it's moving.
Last Tuesday.
Yeah, I know.
Obviously,
That's
they're not on
you.
yet.
I made the mistake of looking back after I was below the curtain. That's perfect, my memory.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. We're sharing.
Oh, that was about yeah.
Pictures, yeah.
You gotta plant somebody.
That's kind of nerve-wracking. Oh, mine flipped over and I didn't even touch the thing.
And I know. Oh, and you- okay.
Okay, ready?
Okay, it is 7 o'clock, and I'm sure you, as much as I, want to be out of here by 8:30. So this is welcome to the League of Women Voters Forum for School Board. This is a forum, not a debate, so civility is our goal. We ask for no name calling on the part of the audience or our contestants up there. What I'd like to do real quickly is introduce the members and their task, and then I do have a couple of announcements. One is let's do the announcements first, because that's the last thing on my mind. Okay, so you guys got this. This is, I believe, something through YOU, and they are going to start putting this out and working with students on it. I'm looking to see, I was thinking there were some other people involved with it. Okay, so evidently this is going to be the new program for the year for stopping bullying, which is a big problem in almost every school area that I talk to people from. Also, our chapter, is doing, I think, some exciting things. We have some exciting things coming up. September 14th, we are going to start a 3-month series on the carry and conceal gun law. The 14th, we'll be meeting down at the Railroad Clubhouse, I believe, probably around 7 o'clock. And basically, it's going to be, what is the law on carry and conceal, and how is it going to affect what laws are already on the books in the city and in the county. So the county attorney is going to be there, the city attorney is going to be there, I believe the sheriff's going to be there, there's going to be some other people there too. October 12th, there will be another one that's going to be community safety and health care impact of guns, and then in November, it will be the business impact. We're going to have somebody from a shooting range coming and talking. We're going to be talking to some people who do shooting sports, and then a public safety discussion also. So that's coming up. We're working also on a book series that we want to do on water safety. And I think we've got the book picked out. Now we just have to come up with things to go along each month with the book. And all of this is going to be free. It's going to be goodwill offering because, you know, heaven knows we all need every organization needs money. But, you know, these are things that we do because we think it will benefit the community. To know what the laws are, to know how it might impact things. By no means are we anti-gun. We have some of our members who already have a carrying permit. So, you know, we're going to try to be fair and balanced. Okay, the election will be the 14th. 12th. The 12th. Thank you, thank you. The 14th, I have another meeting. No, the 12th. Okay, it's the 12th. From noon until, I believe, 7 or 8. You can still vote early. Cardinal School District and Ottumwa School District can vote early at the courthouse. The other school districts are not included in that because they have other little add-on things that they've put into their election. And so they could only, and they have different hours then because of that. And so that's the reason why they're not, you can't vote up there if you work here but live in Blakesburg. So Ottumwa and Cardinal, you can vote early. There's not going to be a whole lot of changes this year in voter registration or showing ID. Those will come next year and the year after, and we're going to try and maybe do a series to educate people on that too. Okay, so let's get to the introductions. Our timekeeper, and if you guys would stand up when I say your name or wave, that would be great. The timekeeper is our current Vice President, Michael Miller. Doesn't take direction well. Oh, that's okay. You're right. I did. Okay, Sarah Sells is our moderator. Dennis Ellison and Jean Dell will be reviewing the questions. Mary Stewart will be reading the questions from the audience. Mary Gaskell, Peg Lazio, Brenda Case, Rebecca Ellison, Kathy, Courtney, Connie Wilson, and Connie Johnson. As you see them, some of them I think are still downstairs. But if you have a question while this is going on, raise your hand, wave them down, they will give you a card. And we have plenty of cards. Okay, so Michael, I'm going to turn it over to you to explain the rules.
First thing I'd like to do is say that there are 7 candidates running for the Ottumwa School Board, and we were fortunate enough to have all 7 candidates agree to join us today. So thank you all very much for coming to be with us today. The candidates that are running for the Ottumwa School Board include Alex Barr, Jeff Bittner, Michael Carpenter, Bill Hoffman, Nancy Manson, Danny Simonson, and Ann Youngman. To give them a quick reminder of how the forum is going to work and to let the members of the audience know, all of the candidates are going to receive 2 minutes to make opening statements. Following that, there will be a series of questions. The first question will be a question that was pre-designed by the League of Women Voters. The following questions will come from the live audience here. The candidates will all receive 1.5 minutes to answer those questions. Alex Barr will be able to be the first person to answer the first question. The second question, Jeff Bittner will be the first person to answer, and we will work our way across the board from there. At the end of the candidate forum, there will be a 1-minute time period for all of the candidates to make closing remarks. To help us all keep track of time, I will be the timekeeper. At 30 seconds remaining, I'll hold up the yellow side of the sign. At 10 seconds remaining, I'll flip it over to the red side. When time runs out, if you are still talking, I will try to politely interrupt and let you know that your time is up. All right. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Silence cell phones.
Yes, please put your cell phones on silent. please. That would be good. Okay, and one thing that I didn't say, but I will say is, this is going out on GOTV right now and also being uploaded to YouTube. So I guess don't be surprised if there's like dancing emojis when you guys are talking or whatever. But anyway, so the first question, we'll get serious here now. The first question, during the 2000, are they going to do their 2 minutes first? Okay, never mind. Okay.
We're ready. We are ready for our opening statements, and we'll start with Mr. Barr.
Okay. Thank you all for coming tonight. My name's Alex Barr. Tell you a little bit about myself. Originally graduated from here in 1994. Went to school here all my life. Moved away for a little bit, 14 years, came back to work for the school district. All my family is from here, relatives, friends, and so that's what I chose to do. And I've been asked a lot about why I'm running for the school board. And so I would say, to put it simply, that I'm running for the school board for the same reason that I came to work for the school district, that I love Ottumwa. I love all the people here. I love the community. I enjoyed my education experience at the school district. And so combine all those, that's why I'm running for the school board. I want the best for Ottumwa. And so I feel like I can be an asset to the community, to the school district. I have 20 years of education or accounting, CPA/education finance experience. And I think a good board is a diverse board, and one that has, diversity and can see things from different perspectives. And so I think I would be a good addition to the school board, an asset, probably complement the other board members to a good degree. And so all that being said, I'm happy to be here and look forward to the questions.
Thank you. Mr. Bittner.
Hi, my name is Jeff Bittner, and I'm very happy to be here this evening. My family and I moved here 25 years ago. I've delivered over 4,000 babies in this area, and probably many of them are in the district as we speak, and I have a vested interest in that. All three of my children graduated from OHS. One went into the arts, one into the sciences, and one's kind of in between. And they've all done very well. My interest in the school board started mostly this spring when we lost yet another physician, or two physicians in their family, to another community because of their perception of the school district and the community in general. And that really bothered me, and I wanted to stop that leak that we've been having. So I researched things a little bit, and again, the billboard on Court Street by Horace Mann School, the United Way billboard, I was walking by one morning and it says, every kid is one caring adult away from being a success story. And that really hit home with me, and I've carried that with me ever since. And I went home and I started researching the board. And I got on the district's website and I looked at mission statements and vision statements. I looked at core beliefs of the board and really what we were all about. And I thought, this really fits. I think I can do this. So with the interim position open, I made my presentation with the 6 remaining members of the current board. I said that I think I'm a good listener. I'm a problem solver. I'm open. I'm honest. I will always speak my mind. I'm not afraid to change my mind. And I have no familial ties to the district. And of all the candidates there that night, those 6 people that are currently doing the job out in the trenches picked me to be part of the team. And that is where the empowerment comes in. And now that I've had a couple meetings under my belt, I'm engaged. I love it. And I look forward to doing another 4 years. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you. My name is Michael Carpenter. I'm a lawyer here in town. Am part owner in a small law firm. I've been in Ottumwa since 2004. I got my wife to move to town, which if you talk to anyone who's moved to Ottumwa, that's one of the hardest things in the world to accomplish. We had our children here. We're going to raise our children here. And my youngest daughter is starting kindergarten. As a lawyer, I've had the opportunity to do some school work with school boards, and watching boards work, it is always something I've been interested in doing because it's a very difficult job and a thankless job, but it's a job where you can make a tremendous difference in your community. With our children starting school now, for me, it was kind of a crossroads moment where I can continue to have concerns and we can talk about the schools, or I can put myself out there and try to be part of making them better, right? And like Dr. Bittner said, that empowerment. I believe very strongly in the mission of public education. I believe that every child should have the education that suits them to get them into that post-secondary transition in the most effective and powerful way. I believe that we can do that as a board. I think that we can really make improvements. As a board member, for me, I want to encourage a culture of urgency and innovation and accountability. So that's my 2 cents. I'm running unopposed, so that's nice, but I still would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman?
Okay, first off, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for having me here to speak tonight and have this opportunity. My name is Bill Hoffman. I'm running for council. I'm a lifelong resident of this great community. I have a wonderful wife that takes care of my 2 beautiful children at home that are a member of the public schools at Horseman here in Ottumwa. When I look at it, I'm a school board candidate for many reasons. First and foremost, I want to serve the parents, the students, and the faculty and be the voice that I think they need. I think some people feel unheard from when I've talked to people. I think some feel they need a voice. I think there's also a lot of positive things going on. There are so many positive things going on in our school system, and I want to be part of that positive change. I'm a member of a lot of organizations, community organizations, volunteer organizations here in the city that serve different people, but I'm always child-centered. Everybody has to have something they're convicted about. I'm convicted to take care of our children. I'm convicted to take care of this next generation and help secure their future. A little bit of my experience, I've worked for Walmart for 25 years, and I've often had the privilege of serving many of you in different ways. And even through my volunteer organizations, I've met some of you. I've had a chance to work with you. In my career, I've authored and helped to make policy. I've been responsible for the successful training of hundreds of associates. I've been directly responsible for the promotion of associates through different mentoring programs. And I also work for different mentoring programs that help mentor children. I have a strong financial base. I have a strong budget base. I'm able to plan wages and budgets, and I'm able to come up with resourceful and creative ways to make those budgets work and keep it consistent for the taxpayer, the parent, and most importantly, the child. That's why we're all here.
Thank you. Ms. Manson?
Hi, my name is Nancy Manson, and I am a lifelong resident of Ottumwa, Iowa. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this valuable event. I would also like to thank the members of the audience, as this has been a very long day for you, I am sure, and probably the end of a very long week. I have 2 children that graduated from Ottumwa High School, as I did many years ago. The reason I am running for school board is mainly the students. As a retired educator of 34 years and a parent and a school board member, acting in the best interest of all children is the utmost importance to me. And school board members need to be totally responsible for their students. And this has been my focus for 34 years. My teaching experiences has provided me with the understanding of the issues that students, parents, and the district go through every day. And I've been very fortunate to be a member of the Ottumwa Community School District for 1 year. We have 4 big projects right now. We've adopted a new reading curriculum, grades K through 8, in order to raise reading achievement. Hopefully soon we will be done with the Schaefer project. We are starting on the beginning of a 3-year program with technology, and we're starting out with connectivity and access. And tonight I participated in the groundbreaking of a preschool which is very exciting. Our mission with the Ottumwa Community School District is and should be to engage, educate, and empower every student every day. I love education and learning. I look forward to answering your questions that you might have tonight and sharing with you my positions on the Ottumwa School Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Simonson?
Good evening. My name is Danny Simonson, a resident of Ottumwa lifelong, like a lot of those on the board here. And again, I'd like to thank you for hosting this event and thanking everybody coming out. And more importantly, I'd like to thank the rest of the candidates for coming out too, because it means a lot to have 7 people going for 4 slots. That's pretty good. So a lot of times we don't have good representation, and I think that's a good thing. So a little bit of background about me. Of course, I graduated Ottumwa High School, went to Indian Hills, joined the military, spent 23 years there. While I was in the military, I got my bachelor's of business from Grandview, MBA, Master of Business Administration, and also along with that, I got a grad certificate in supply chain management. My whole military career and career since then has always been in process improvement, supply chain management, and I'm basically like Dr. Bentner said, a trouble or problem solver, and also work with a lot of projects, a lot of project management, and fiduciary stuff. So I've been working in the workforce for quite a bit, and for the last 10 years been in workforce development. And I think that's a big thing to bring to the board, some diversity, because right now we're really hurting in workforce development in this area. Like Dr. Bentner said, we're losing our children to outside areas and trying to get people in. That's something we got to start working on. Ottumwa is a little behind the curve on career technical education and vocational programs, and working with that. We got our number one priority for the board and for the superintendent should always be the resident student enrollment, and that means keeping seats in our school district and keeping them here. And with that, and how we're going to do that is through economics and through we got a lot of competing initiatives out there, which is great. Legacy and a whole bunch of people are working on different initiatives, but we got to collaborate and bring that together. And I feel I can help with my partnership with that I've already built with a lot of programs and help bring that to the board. So again, thanks, and ask more questions later.
Thank you. Ms. Youngman?
I want to thank the League of Women Voters for allowing the citizens of Ottumwa to get to know each one of us a little bit better and to know our views on important issues that are available at this time. My name is Ann Youngman. I have lived in Ottumwa since the age of 5. I too graduated from Ottumwa High School. I taught in the Ottumwa School District for 38 years, and I am proud of that. I believe with all my heart in public education, and I am an advocate for all children. I have been a leader, a communicator, a decision maker, consensus builder for my district and for organizations past and present. I have regularly attended school board meetings for the past 20 years. And the reason was to develop an overview of issues facing our school district, and so that I could be a catalyst for positive change for all involved in our school district, including students, parents, staff, administrators, citizens, and the school board. And I think over the years, I've demonstrated how much I care about my district. My understanding in the field of education and my love for public education and the students and all that work so hard, I am running for the school board in Ottumwa, Iowa for that reason. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with the league question.
Okay. During the 2017 legislative session, HF 291 was passed and signed into law by the governor. This legislation drastically altered the collective bargaining rights of all public employees except public safety employees. Under the new law, a school board is required to bargain only one item with its employees: base wages, the starting wage in every job classification. All other previously negotiated items were converted to either permissive or illegal items of bargaining. Which items do you believe that the Ottumwa School Board should be willing to negotiate with its employees? Do I need to read this again because you really all got it? Yeah.
And this time we'll be starting with Mr. Bittner.
Thank you. This is the third time in this election that these legislative issues have come to the surface. The first was with the OEA, who did not endorse me, nor did they interview me. The second was a 4-page questionnaire I got from the AFL-CIO that I filled out and returned to Steve Siegel, and then tonight. So I've had to familiarize myself with this legislative change and how it started in '74, and 40 years later, these changes have had a huge impact on teachers as well as other non-safety public employees. The parallel issue in medicine, and this is why I can be sympathetic, is that we've had similar changes in medicine. Our reimbursement has been cut. We've dealt with malpractice reform. Even my own employer match to my pension fund has been taken away. So I know what it feels like to have these changes. Now, I don't know if and when these issues will come before the board. They may not, they may. And if they do, I can assure you that I will dig in, I will research, I will ask questions, I will familiarize myself, and I will vote in the best interest of our students and our teachers. I like to think we do a great job of taking care of our students and teachers at this level. I think we do a great job. In the meantime, I'm on the board and I have to worry about everything basically that Nancy just listed. We've got to worry about students leaving the community. We've got to worry about building a stadium and a new track, et cetera. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Carpenter?
Thank you. I'll give you the answer first and then explain myself. As far as those issues that you're no longer allowed to have in the contract, we obviously can't bargain those because you have to follow the law. For the permissive items, I would continue to negotiate in good faith with teachers on those items. I've had the opportunity in my legal practice to sit with school boards during union negotiations before. In fact, I did it several years ago here in Ottumwa. And the thing to understand about the collective bargaining agreements in Iowa is that they are mostly 40 years old, and most of the rough edges have been smoothed down pretty considerably. They're what we call mature contracts. They reflect a long-standing understanding between the employees and the employers, and it's one of those things where people can get pretty passionate about some of the details that seem pretty minor to an outsider, but they're just very mature contracts. I think it's a show of good faith to our teachers. There's no reason just to throw that out the window just because you can. I think one of the ways that Ottumwa continue to be competitive in our area is to continue to be really good to our teachers and to make sure that they're protected, and there are protections in these collective bargaining agreements that, again, they're well earned and they're necessary for teachers. But I think to the extent we preserve the status quo as far as that goes, the better.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman?
Thank you. I do want to relate everything. I too have done extensive research on this, and I want everyone to know my answers revolve around children first. I've related everything I've researched to our kids because they're the most valuable thing in this whole thing. When I do look at it, though, I believe some of the protections of teachers need to be preserved because that makes for a better classroom. It makes for more consistency in a classroom. So pay, of course, is one thing you should be able to talk about. Employee benefits, that's not only important to teachers and faculty, that's important to people wide. Oftentimes when we attract new teachers or we attract new employees from anywhere in any job, in any walk of life, benefits is an important thing. It almost replaces pay. And I think people should have a say in that. In this particular situation and people I've talked to, procedures for staffing reduction, to provide job security for our talent that is here. We need to provide job security for the talent here. And I think that's something that should be talked about because that, again, proves consistency for our children. We have to take care of everybody as a whole. The last thing I got is standards and procedures of discipline. I think there needs to be a clear standard of discipline on both sides, again, so we can be consistent with our children. the consistency of our children coming to school every day is extremely important. If we mix it up,
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Manson?
This is a very complex issue, and I'm going to give you a very simple answer. We should be willing to negotiate all of them. In case you don't know, the permissive items are the grievance procedures, seniority, holidays, hours, wages, including TSS, vacation time, shift differentials, health and safety, leaves of absences, overtime compensation, job classifications, and the in-service procedures. As a school board, we do not negotiate contracts. But as a board member, I cannot say that none of these items are not important or that one item is more important than the other. Chapter 20, or House File 291, was very devastating for all bargaining units across the state, as it reduced a many-page contract down to one page, wages. Our employees have signed multi-year contracts, which will begin to expire next year. What I, as a board member, need to encourage is good communication between labor and management. This is crucial during these difficult times. All of the above issues impact our employees, whether they are associates, maintenance workers, secretaries, and therefore they impact our students. Our focus has to be on recruiting and retaining good quality employees, and the only way we can do that is be able to provide them with a good contract. And we must be willing to discuss and solve our problems together as they arise.
Thank you. Mr. Simonson?
Again, like everybody's already said, they've already listed all the items. Again, it's just about having open conversation and being able to work those things out. One thing that she left off was the other thing they're allowed to permissive is other matters that mutually agreed upon. So those things you want to work mutually agreed upon, that could be things like, you know, having the middle or the new school built with union labor, you know, because that's an investment in the future. It may cost a little bit more, but ultimately I've worked with a lot of unions in the area. And quite frankly, I've tried to have them work with apprenticeship programs in the Ottumwa School District, and they quite frankly say, well, why should we work with the school district when they don't support union labor? So we have to invest in the future and look at trying to how we can, you know, develop jobs for our students in the future, and that's one thing they can do. So we got to start looking outside the box. Because again, ultimately, it does, like Ms. Manson said, is coming back to retention. We have to figure out how we can retain our teachers. Iowa State University just announced they're going to do a 7% increase over the next 5 years, and 2.5% of that's for staff wages. And that's because they're losing professors because of the wages and everything's out there. Everybody's going to be in this bind, like they've said. There's a lot. This affects a lot of unions. It affects me because I'm an ASME covered employee. And it's we got to figure out a way to still win for our students and retain good quality teachers. Not only retain them, but to draw them here too, because our workforce is getting older. We have more jobs in Iowa than have employees. We need to work on how to maintain them and keep them here. So again, working with all those permissive and of course staying away from the illegal things that we can't negotiate, but trying to think outside the box too. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Youngman?
Yes, I have been blessed to witness negotiations in the Ottumwa School District, and I know how valuable it is to have a peace of mind about your rights. And when we have health insurance, sick leave, grievances, arbitration, and length of the school day, along with everything else, it needs to be, many of us called and sent emails. Unfortunately, it was chosen to go a different way. But I am an advocate of, even though we can't do it as a school board, as an individual, I can still do other ways of getting information that this needs to be the rights of those involved in the state of Iowa. And it doesn't only affect educators. It affects many, many people. And it was very hard.
Okay, thank you. We'll have our first audience question, please.
Alex Barr.
I did it already. Sorry, Mr. Barr.
All right. So I have an interesting perspective. I participated in all 5 union contract negotiations the past 3 years. And so I have decent knowledge about all 5 contracts and, you know, a good perspective. And I think I was pretty fair with all the groups those 3 years. And with the legislation, I think if the goal of this district is to provide a quality education, I think we have to make decisions that best benefit students. And so taking away benefits or anything else in the contract just to take them away doesn't make sense. I think we need to retain quality educators. I think we have a lot of quality educators here. And I think to keep them, we have to keep as much of the contract together as we can. That being said, I mean, on a year-to-year basis, you have to evaluate the financial impact of what those decisions are. But if there's not a reason to arbitrarily strike an article, I don't think there's any reason to do that. So that's my stance.
Thank you. And now we'll have the audience question.
Will you be a supporter of career and technical education at the high school with money, partnerships with trade schools, etc.? And this question is from Brett Fippen.
And we will start with Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you. I think I said this in my radio interview, and I skipped it in my intro here. That's one of the things I think is a real opportunity for our school district right now. I think whatever you're reading, it's in the Des Moines Register, it seems almost every other day, about the need for career, technical, vocational, whatever you call it, training and jobs at the community college level or the high school level. You read this everywhere because it's true. That is a tremendous area of growth for us. And you just look around our community, there are so many of those jobs that can be filled, and they can keep our students here in the community, can get them working in productive wages. For a lot of kids in high school, keeping high school interesting to them is about keeping it relevant to them. I think that's another huge opportunity, is to get kids into something that's relevant to them and resonates with them and gets them excited about coming to school because they can make some money and start building their life. I think there's tremendous opportunity to work with Indian Hills that's being underutilized right now. And that's something I've seen some statistics where the Ottumwa School District is sending so many fewer kids to Indian Hills and surrounding districts. That and the AEA, that's something that's going to be maybe a top priority of mine as a school board member. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman?
I'm a big supporter of vocational and technical programs. I think if we're not a supporter of vocational and technical programs, we're missing a skill set that a particular student may have, or hundreds of students. Those vocational and technical programs, the things they learn in those classes, the items they learn, and the things they take with them and they take to further their education. Vocational and technical is some of the backbone of our society. We need to, there are a lot of students who are inclined at these jobs that a lot of us couldn't do. To not nurture that would, I don't know any other words, but be crazy. To not nurture all programs. I'm a fan of the vocational technical as long as the arts and athletics. We need to take everything into account. I'm a huge supporter of the vocational and technical programs. So.
Thank you. Ms. Manson?
I too am a huge supporter of vocational classes. If we are going to engage and educate and empower every student, we have to be looking at all different types of career opportunities for people. Currently, we have a partnership with Indian Hills Community College where we're working on trying to find jobs and learning that will help students find jobs. We also have the IJAG program, and we have classes offered at the high school that are vocational classes. My son took a computer-aided drafting class, and he was mentored through that class, and now he's an engineer in Canada. So they are very, very important. And I think anything we can do to create partnerships with businesses, we need to do.
Thank you. Mr. Simonson?
Firmly support that. But I'm a firm not only support the vocation technical, but we need to bring back programs like VICA, DECA, OEA, all those kind of programs that are there. Like when I was in high school, the biggest thing, and again, I'm in the workforce. I'm working with these millennials right now, and the human resources have renamed them. It's not job hopping anymore. They're calling them career explorers. The problem is they're coming out of school or even coming out of college not knowing what they want to do yet because they haven't had that hands-on experience. They haven't had any attention to it in high school even. So I'm a firm believer we need to build that. We have the VOTEC building already there. We need to get back in the vocational trades, get them back in there, build that a little bit bigger. Again, I'm working with that, and it needs to be in-house. I know we got great partnerships with Indian Hills and that, but it's got to be in-house because, again, our kids are hands-on learners. They're kinesthetic tactile. It's got to be experiential learning. That's where you maybe do that 70% hands-on, 30% book work. Anybody that's been in the classroom knows that you got to sometimes motivate them for doing book work by having that other hands-on, being able to, whether it's cut wood, wire an outlet box or build an engine. You got to be able to use that to help motivate, to keep them interest, like they've kind of said earlier in the board. So again, yeah, I firmly believe we need to do that. You've already seen everybody else is starting to do it. We need to get back on that and build it back up.
Thank you. Ms. Youngman?
I too am a firm believer in those programs because I have personally witnessed the excellence of what students have done. They've taken apart engines and put them all back together again, and they actually worked in a vehicle. And I had not the ability whatsoever to do it. And what I witnessed was pride and joy in those students, and they were award-winning students. They won national awards. I've also been able to witness with technology, what we have done. We have 3D technology in the schools. Students are doing great works, and I believe everyone has the right to learn and be the best that they can be in whatever their ability happens to be. And I think we should be proud of what they do.
Thank you. Mr. Barr?
Along with everyone else, I support those programs. I think there's nothing but a benefit from them. There's a lot of kids that could be exposed to those that, maybe aren't interested in other areas. Interestingly enough, I had a conversation with Matt Thompson from Indian Hills last week about other stuff, but we were talking about Career Academy graduates, and currently I think the surrounding schools have a bigger participation in the career academies than we do. And, it's pretty big numbers in terms of differential. I think the current administration I'm aware they're putting more of a focus on career academies. So I think that's a good thing. And so hopefully, that work transitions into more graduates and attendees. So.
Thank you. Mr. Bittner?
This may surprise you, but I too absolutely agree that we should have more of these programs. It's pretty much all been said, but a generation ago, if you were fortunate enough to be able to go to college and graduated from four-year college, you were pretty much guaranteed to have a pretty good life and a strong career and go on. And that's just not the case anymore. I think a lot of these students that are graduating it's not that they don't know what they want to do, they just aren't able to do it. They're not finding jobs. So I think vocational track is a wonderful alternative. I'm the product of a technical school. I went to Marshalltown Community College and became an operating room technician, and then look at the door it opened for me to expand on that later in life. So by all means, and I think as a community, we could support this even more by maybe increasing some job shadowing for these students out in the trenches at John Deere or down at JBS or wherever. And I think the community could be involved with that.
Thank you. Next question.
There have been rumors of an eventual combined elementary school for the north side of the city, similar to Liberty. Would you be in favor of combining the north side schools into one new elementary in the future? This question comes from Jim Klingman.
Okay, Mr. Hoffman, it's your turn to begin.
Actually, to do that, I would need to do further research. Before I committed or was part of a committee that committed money, I would like to go to the north side schools and I would like to talk to the teachers. Hey, are you doing okay? Or hey, look at the conditions of the schools, look at the ownership of schools and look at the conditions now. I'm not saying I'm not all in favor of a combined school, but I do think by combining a school, we take a little bit away of having our neighborhood schools. We take a little bit away from the safety we feel for our children. We take a little bit away, and I think it may cause an overcrowding problem at a lower level, like I believe we have at the upper level. So I don't I firmly believe, I have to say that I like the neighborhood schools. I like not having them combined. I believe it enriches the engagement of the students. I believe, you know, being a little bit smaller and being more manageable. So I believe right now that I would probably keep it the way it was, pending the conditions of the schools themselves.
Thank you. Ms. Manson?
There are a lot of advantages of having a large building like Liberty Elementary and Down Elementary School. And one of them is collaboration. And I never got to teach at Liberty, and I would have loved to have been able to collaborate with all the second grade teachers or all the first grade teachers. The problem basically with having a north side school is logistics. We don't have a piece of land that is large enough to be able to put a north side school in. And you would like to say, well, why don't we use the like St. Joseph Hospital complex? It's not big enough. Walsh is not big enough. So in order to be able to do that, we'd almost have to put them outside the city of Ottumwa. And I'm not real comfortable with that right now. I like the idea of having two different sized buildings. I like the idea of having the large new Liberty. I think that's a wonderful concept, but I also like having north side schools that are smaller. So therefore, if parents don't want their child to be in a large school, they can keep them in a neighborhood school or in a small school.
Thank you. Mr. Simonson?
And again, I have to agree with a lot of what she said too, and some of the other ones. It's like, say, logistics, looking at the buildings. You know, a lot of research has to be done. You know, I'm a long-term planner, so I'm always looking at long-term and looking at how things go. And, you know, and with the save money being gone, you know, potentially being gone in 2025 and what they're using now, again, where would the money come from? So would it come from, you're going to tax, you know, we're already ranked 7th highest in the nation, or in Iowa for property taxes. So, I mean, how's that going to fund that? So you're looking at those kind of things. So yeah, you have to look at all those things that come into play and see what you'd want to do. Those schools, recently was in Quincy, Illinois, and they're building right now 5 brand new schools in Quincy, Illinois. A friend of mine, superintendent there, and it's just, you know, Illinois uses the school until it's flat wore out, and that's just what they do, because again, what's the priority is where the money goes. So as the priority is a student, you know, resident student enrollment, you know, early intervention, and like we're doing now with the preschool and trying to work on that. Those, you know, we got to look at our priorities and kind of focus there. So again, more research has to be done as far as where that goes. And like in Evans right now, when they talk about if you have a tornado somewhere, where do they tell them to go? To the old part of the school, because it's solid.
Thank you. Ms. Youngman?
I know for a fact that we've looked for land for another situation that has been being renovated, Schaefer Field. They looked very hard to find land to perhaps build a huge complex. That was not to be. That would be something that would take a great deal of research. It would also take involving community members because it has to be cohesive. If you choose to do something like that, you have to be able to work as a village and not in separation. We were very blessed to have land where Liberty is now. And now they have to look at perhaps maybe selling some land surrounding it, maybe not, maybe keeping it. But we need to really do in-depth research, because Liberty, as it is now, is, you know, I wish we could add more rooms to it, but at right now we can't because it's growing, as are our other schools. And I think that that's something that would take a great deal of dedication through the citizens and through the school personnel to see that that was successful if that happens.
Thank you. Mr. Bart?
I would say I'm not pro or con large school versus small school. I'd like to see more information or data on Liberty versus the elementary schools, the neighborhood schools. I think both size schools have advantages and disadvantages. But right now, I think the financial feasibility would be the biggest drawback. Like Danny mentioned, you know, our save money is probably tied up in preschool, technology, and Schaefer, among other things. So I think based on the cost of Liberty, financial feasibility might be the toughest straw there. So it'd require a bond issue. I'm not sure if, you know, that would work here. So I'd want more information. If one to be strongly pursued, I want more information and data on Liberty versus the neighborhood schools before I would say either way.
Dr. Bittner?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to a north side equivalent to Liberty. I think we would take a big step back, and I've already done some research and asked questions about the result of building a Liberty. And I think it's a net plus from what I've heard, which in a way surprised me, because when the whole process came around, I wondered how it was going to turn out. I have talked to an educator from Ottumwa, though, that says that in K1 that she kind of misses watching those students grow up and misses the role model potential for her younger students of the older students. But there's balances. So I think the next step, since we know it has worked once, would be to go into the north side schools and say, is there a reason to give up those schools? What's the physical plan like? How do the teachers, that would be the next step in the research process. And then if we deemed that it was feasible to go forward and it was a positive thing, then we start looking for land. I think we just have to have an orderly fashion and put some thought to it.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter?
Thank you. When I put my papers in to run for school board, this was the first question that someone asked me that kind of put me right back on my heels, because I had no answer whatsoever. It's a very difficult question, and there's so many competing interests and considerations and concerns. And it's the one that as I'm driving in my car thinking about serving on the school board, it's one I keep coming back to and trying to figure out, if that's on the table right in front of me, what am I going to look at and how am I going to weigh that? How am I going to decide? I agree largely with Mr. Hoffman's answer. I think he kind of stated my position, which is, I had to learn more. And I think listen to the answers from the other candidates. They reflect all those various concerns that you'd have to weigh. It all comes down to what's going to be best for those students in the building. So if that's a bridge we're going to have to cross, then check back with me later.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman? No, you started.
Question.
Sorry. Next question.
This question is from Becky Engel. As a board member, how will you ensure district leaders are being honest and transparent?
And that starts with Ms. Manson. Get me running on one thing and I get off.
So that is a very good question. We want our administrators and everyone, teachers, to be honest and transparent. And how do we determine that they are? Well, we have to judge their actions. And if their actions, and I believe that the people that we have hired are probably very honest and transparent. And if you as a school member or you as a public person does not believe or has questions about your administration, then I think you need to go ask them. And I think that you need to ask questions. I'm sorry, but I don't believe we have any people in the administration that are not honest and transparent. So therefore, I'm having difficulty answering this question.
Thank you. Mr. Simonson?
Could you read the question again for me, please?
As a board member, how will you ensure district leaders are being honest and transparent?
For me, I guess, again, I'm a process person. I always like to, I'm policy driven, performance driven. The biggest thing is, looking at our Ottumwa School Board policies. I've kind of reviewed a little bit of those recently. And, we have policies 100 through 900. And actually, most of the policies haven't been reviewed since March of 15. Ms. Koiker was hired in July of 16. So a lot of those policies should be reviewed. There's some new policies that were adopted in August of 16. And that was actually about the therapy dog. So a lot of those policies, again, coming through, people can't meet expectations unless they know what the expectations are. And those expectations come through, job descriptions or policies, and guidance. So you have to have that clear that clear guidance, and people will meet expectations. They don't involuntarily break rules or on purpose or those things. The problem is they just don't know sometimes what the expectations are. So the biggest thing is have clear expectations, feedback, open discussions, and also review policies and keep those updated. And then, people usually will do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Youngman?
I do know that the school board does have a closed session if the superintendent so desires, or can have an open session if the superintendent so desires, for consultation about their performance every year. Now, as far as other administrators, they do not have closed sessions with them, but whenever people I know, including myself, whenever there were situations, you follow what they call in our school district the chain of command. And the chain of command means you talk to the person that you're having the difficulties with first. I would say that if someone is not following their leadership role as should be, then we, the school board, or they, the school board, should get involved in a certain element of it. One has to get data and basic information to know exactly if this person is following what they're supposed to be following. Everyone has rights.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Barr?
I think it starts with setting fair expectations of the leaders. And so if the expectations aren't reasonable, then leaders probably not going to succeed. And then thorough evaluations. And then in between, I think it's important to listen to feedback, but probably form an independent opinion based on that feedback, using information that you gather yourself, not hearsay or otherwise. And so I think that would be the process that would allow a fair process.
Thank you. Dr. Bittner?
Yeah. I approach people as innocent until proven guilty. And this is a great question, by the way. But I too agree it starts with the hiring process. And if you're not transparent or you're not honest, that's a personality trait. And I think that could be picked up in the hiring process. What is this educators or administrators history? How many jobs have they had? What have their evaluations been like? And try to weed these things out before they're ever placed in the system. So you've made your best choice, because once they're here, it is very hard, I think, to police that and try to. But I think you could look at outcomes. Again, if it's a personality trait and they're honest, committed people, they're going to have good outcomes. They're going to be liked. Their students are going to like them. Their peers are going to like them. And there should be some red flags that we could look for if that's not the case.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter?
Thank you. When it comes to honesty and transparency from our leadership, what I would really insist on is knowing that when they make a decision or when they're recommending a decision, that what they're giving the public, the teachers, the staff, and the board members is the real reason behind what they're doing. And no more, no less. No need to embellish. No need to try to sell a point. Just tell us what you're thinking, because reasonable people can agree, disagree. Sometimes we make mistakes. Just own a mistake. It's fine. Sometimes we make a decision based on good information at the time that turns out to not work out the way we thought it would. That's all fine. Just make sure that when we're making those decisions and when things are coming out, just laying on the table, the cards, what your motivation is and what your goal is. It sounds very simple. In practice, it can be pretty hard. But I think if you have the discipline and the integrity to commit to that, it's just gonna help everything run smoother, and it's gonna help the district in innumerable ways. So that's my take on the honesty question.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman?
Yeah, to address that, the honesty and transparency of our leadership, this answer really is simple for me. It's accountability and follow-up. I understand there needs to be some closed sessions sometimes, but when you close lines of communication, that's when parents and children get scared. That's when teachers get scared, when there's closed. It has to be transparent. It has to be open communication. You have to make that information available to everybody, even if it's after the closed meeting. It can't be wait. Trust but verify is something I live by. Everybody can say we trust somebody. We do. There are people out there, and this is why I want to be here, to be the voice and be the protection. There are extremely good people who make bad decisions. But if you trust and don't verify, you're part of that bad decision. So the follow-up is a key for me. Like I said, good people make bad decisions, and people are in fear when they're not getting the information. So transparency, communication is key. I can't stress that enough. That's one of the pillars I stand for in leadership. People need called out. That's not the right wording, but they need called out. If we feel their honesty is in question, it's not to embarrass them. It's not to make them feel degraded or stupid, but we're allowed to know. We should be able to know. We should know what goes on behind those closed doors, and we should trust but verify. I've said those words a lot, but that's how I believe.
Thank you. Next question.
This question is from Jody Williams. Do you believe that all students can learn at high levels?
And we'll start with Mr. Simonson.
Oh, first. Sure. I agree. Again, it's working with every student, and whether it's removing barriers from that student, sometimes they just need to be challenged, finding and connecting. It's that one-on-one connection and finding out what makes that student work, what they adapt to. So again, it's working with, and like I like the adopted with the therapy dog. Sometimes it's whether it's vocational, technical training, somehow it's somewhere it's making that's pulling that performance out of that student. So I think every student has the potential. Years ago, I was at a staffing, and I had a educator said, "Well, do you think your child's plateaued?" And that's hard to hear. I mean, that's unbelievable. I can't believe somebody would even say that in the education field, because again, the sky's the limit, and they can do many things. So yeah, I feel that they can achieve whatever, and it's again, it's up to us to bring it out and give them those opportunities to bring that out. So.
Thank you. Ms. Youngman?
I feel that every child is a gift, and that every child needs a gift given back. And that's the job of the educator, the parents, the administrator, to help every child to succeed to the best of their ability. Not everyone learns the same way. And it takes us different roads to make everyone succeed at whatever is their ability. Every child is a gift, and every child needs to be given a gift. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barr?
I'd probably need a definition of high level, but I think based on, I'm not an educator, but I've heard many examples and seen many examples of students performing or maximizing their potential based on quality education they received. So I think there's that opportunity. I've witnessed that, or, I've heard about that and seen that. So I'd agree that could happen.
Dr. Bittner?
Yeah, I'd have to echo what's been said. I think, I don't know, the terminology high level is quite appropriate. It's maybe more to their greatest potential. And I think it's the job of our educators to find that potential and maximize that potential. And maybe the students don't even realize where their greatest potential is. And it's our job to sort that out, because these are very impressionable minds that we're dealing with. And we have, 13 to 14 short years. So, maybe it's, yeah, I want to go to medical school and be a brain surgeon, or maybe it's, I want to be the best engineer they have at John Deere, or maybe it's, I want to be the best welder they've ever seen for Winger. And it's our job to find that out. And so, yes, every student can achieve their greatest potential.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter?
I'll be brief. The worst thing that a school district can do is give up on a kid. And so our obligation is to treat each and every child in a way that they develop to their highest potential and that they can achieve at a high level. I mean, that's just the attitude you need to take with every child.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman?
I think of this one from the heart. I think if you make a connection with a child or an adult, we're going to relate it to a child. If you make a connection of something they're good at, something that interests them, of course they're going to learn at a high level. That's how we all learn. But you have to make that connection. It has to be a partnership between the teacher and the parent to nurture what they're good at. And I'm reflecting on my own childhood here. And I think when we discuss it, what gets mixed into the conversation, when we talk about vocational, we talk about technical, we talk about children, can they learn at a high level, is success. Success. I think when we talk about children learning at a high level, I don't think there's any more important vocation than another. A maintenance man at Walmart has my respect because he keeps that store clean, he does well, he values his job. I value the physicians that take care. Physicians saved my daughter's life. So I think we really need to make the connection with the kids. And yes, they can learn at a high level, but I think everybody needs to know when you make that connection, we need to make them know that that's important from any walk of life, whatever you decide to do. And it's all our duty as adults to nurture that.
I think the answer is yes with an exclamation mark. Every student matters. And for 34 years, I taught kindergarten through 5th grade. And how am I going to go in and say to some child, I'm sorry, I don't think that you can achieve, and you're just going to go out and just live. As an educator, you have to believe that every child matters. Every child can do the best that they can do. And you as an educator have a responsibility to make sure that happens. And we need to inspire students so that they can think, so that they can learn, so that they can go out and get a job. And so I say yes with an exclamation mark. I definitely think that all students matter and that all students can learn at a high level.
If you were elected to the school board, do you feel you should be held to the same standards as someone who is applying for a position with the school district? Example, if a background check was done, would there be anything that would prevent you from being hired to the school district? And this question is from Mark, and I apologize if I mispronounce this, Famali.
Okay, and we'll start with Ms. Youngman.
All right, if could you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, I was going to say, that's again.
If you were elected to the school board, do you feel you should be held to the same standards as someone who is applying for a position with the school district? And the example was, if a background check was done, would there be anything that would prevent you from being hired to the school district?
I do understand that question, and it's, I do feel that it would be fine to do a background check if that was determined to be. I know right now that when a person is on the school board, there is no background check. It is a situation where hopefully ethically and morally, I'm talking about myself, that I have done what would be correct and that I would uphold the stature of dignity with the Ottumwa School District, Ottumwa School Board members, and the citizens of my community.
Thank you. Mr. Barr?
Yeah, I think it'd be fair to say that whatever criteria the employees were hired at the school district, you know, if that were to be the case, that a background check, if merited, could be used.
Thank you. Dr. Bittner?
Yeah, I also agree that we should be held to the same standards. There's nothing in my background that would interfere with my ability to be a school board member. I look at the three branches of what the board has, the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the evaluative branch. And in the executive branch, you know, we charge our CEO to carry out, you know, what we want done and how we want it done. And I think that we need to be held to at least the same standards if we're putting out expectations for our educators.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter?
Thank you. If you do a background check on me in Iowa courts online, it's a little difficult because I'm a lawyer. It's attorney for defendant, except for a couple of speeding tickets.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hoffman.
I absolutely think we should be held to a higher standard. Absolutely. There's nothing in my background there's nothing in my background, but I absolutely think we should be held to a higher standard. The reason I think we should be held to a higher standard is look at the decisions we're making. We need to be held to the highest standard. We're making decisions that affect our children, their future, the present, the now. We're making decisions that affect people's jobs. We're making decisions that affect faculty's job. We need to be held to the utmost highest standard. And again, trust but verify. We all need checked on. Everybody needs checked on. That's a safe thing to do. When you put somebody over a group of children and a group of people that rely on you to make policy, and they rely on you to make rules that everybody's going to go by, of course we need to be held to a higher standard.
Ms. Manson?
I agree with Mr. Hoffman that I believe that we need to be held at a higher standard because we are dealing with students' lives. We are dealing with parents. We are dealing with school district employees' careers and financially a lot of money. And so, yes, I think we should be held to a higher standard. And if they would look in my background check, I think they would find that I'm a very boring person.
Okay, thank you.
Danny.
I'm ready to go. Okay.
So I missed it.
So I got a different perspective to this because again, I got the workforce background. Out on the East Coast, they've actually started legislation. It's called Ban the Box. And Ban the Box is about background checks. And what's happened is, if you notice, the second largest unemployed group out there right now where our workforce can come from next to disabled individuals is offenders. Okay. So the biggest thing about Ban the Box is that you got to take a look at the job description and see if it pertains to that duties and description. You know, there's different for driver, there's different requirements than there is for a CNA versus a welder versus whatever. So if it relates to the job, then yes, you know, if it's dealing with children or whatever, then you need to look at different things. So again, it depends on, to me, it depends on what, and again, it's kind of like an employment law. Again, that's why I like Mr. Carpenter being on the board, because we're bringing in that law side and that diversity. So that's why I'm voting for him. But you need to.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm trying to run a slant here, him and me. But anyway, but again, going back to looking at that, and again, I have no opinion. I have no problem following the policy. So actually, probably if you look in Ottumwa School Board Policies 200, Section 200, Board of Directors establish the policy, we'll follow it.
Now.
This question is from Brooke Fischels. Teachers are interested in your thoughts about what kind of technology should teachers have access to in their classrooms.
Okay, and we'll start with Mr. Barr.
I think, you know, there's always financial concerns about technology, and we have a lot of students, a lot of staff, a lot of buildings. And so I think, but it comes down to what's best for the student. How do you provide a quality education? And, you know, if providing a quality education means the teachers need this technology, I think that's what we have to do to make sure that's available. And so how that's determined, you know, I'm sure there's a variety of ways how that's determined, but I think whatever can provide the students with the best education is what we should provide.
Thank you. Dr. Bittner?
I'm chuckling because after this week and the emails flying back and forth, I think we should give them whatever they want. You know, there's issues with printers and copiers, and hopefully we'll get this all worked out. No, I think that, you know, maybe, again, a parallel with medicine. When a new physician comes to town, they were trained a certain way. They're used to certain items to have available, and we try to provide that. And again, you do have to look at costs, but I think just justifying what they want, why they want it, and how it improves their job and what it does for the students, I think we should try to make that work.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter?
Yeah, I think rather than Mrs. Fischel's asking us what technology she wants in her classroom, we should ask her what technology she needs and wants in her classroom, and ask her colleagues and get that input from them. I mean, obviously, the sky is not the limit as far as money goes, and we have to exist within a budget. But what they have and the specifics, I think that's really something that we should be talking to the teachers and staff members about.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman?
I believe in technology in the classroom. I believe in teachers having the tools and resources they need. But honestly, I would have to ask them. I would have to do more research to see exactly what technology they would need in their classroom. I'm for positive technology, and I'll kind of back up a little bit. Now, I think some technology to our young folks, even some of our older folks, it may be a distraction outside the school for them. Inside, I think teachers do need the tools and resources at hand to give the best education. However, I would like to look into costs and make sure it's being spent effective and it's best for the student, it's best for education, and best for the teacher. So yeah, I would be interested in looking more into that and speaking with the educators about that.
Thank you. Ms. Manson?
I'm old. I have no clue. I know how to use an iPhone just barely, and I know how to work on the computer and send email. I know nothing about chats and all those kind of things. So what I would say is we need to ask the students and the teachers to make recommendations to us. And if phones are what they're able to use that everybody has, then I think we need to allow phones to be used in classrooms for educational purposes. But as for what I can recommend, they would need to bring me a recommendation and tell me why they need it, because I frankly don't have the background.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Simonson?
Yeah, could you please read your question again? I'll make sure I answer the whole thing. So.
When you're at the end, yeah.
Teachers are interested in your thoughts about what kind of technology should teachers have access to in their classrooms.
Again, yeah, I support technology. I mean, there's a misnomer out there that all of these students coming out of school right now are tech savvy, and that's really not true. You'd be surprised how many parents I've seen with kids coming out filling out job applications online. It's still, there's a lot of work needs to be done with technology. And again, it has a time and a place, just depending on what it is. As far as phones in the classroom, I mean, again, this comes up to policy. But again, looking at a lot of workforces out there and looking, I mean, you're not allowed to have them. There's positions, you don't know how many times I see an individual come in the office that's been terminated for having their phone out, just being seen and not using it, just having it in sight. So it's just, we got to develop these individuals for future workforce. So we just got to figure out what basically, and again, if we're adapting, if we're working with workforce and working with, employers and partnerships and all that stuff, we should mirror what their technology needs are in the future and the career. So, yeah, I definitely support what it is. I don't know if it's a cookie cutter for everybody to have the same thing, but I think definitely they need to figure out, what they need. I know some schools are all Mac, some are IBM. It just depends if you're, going into literature versus or publishing that stuff. It just depends. So we'll just, sometimes even colleges require certain things. So again, looking at case by case basis, but definitely we need to have technology in the classrooms. At what level? I don't know. Again, research and doing homework.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Youngman.
I do believe that they need technology in the classroom, and I believe the people that know what they need are the teachers, and they know the type of equipment that works and doesn't work. And yes, this week has been somewhat stressful for many of them with technology. They need to have a voice, and I know that everyone's trying to make things better right now, but I know it's very frustrating when you have a lesson developed and then nothing works, and you have to actually within seconds have to rearrange your whole lesson because technology doesn't work that you were promised was going to work. And I've had that happen to me, and it's terrible when you have a student that's just worked so hard and nothing comes up. So I believe teachers know what needs to be in their classrooms, and I am hoping that things are going to be brighter in technology in Ottumwa.
You've been harassed.
And again, I'm not certain I have the pronunciation right. This question is from Ashley Noril. What is the greatest threat to the school district?
Dr. Bittner?
Yeah, I feel the greatest threat, well, there's many threats, I think, to the school district, and I don't know what order you want to put that in, but I'm really concerned about the perception of the school district and people acting on that perception and enrolling their kids to other districts, leaving town. And perception is everything. There's a perception about the school board itself and how it functions. So that is very challenging. And we need to, people are leaving for other districts that maybe don't have as good student achievement scores as our district. And again, they're not educated. And we need to do a better job about promoting our district. We need to make sure our district has facelift that it's getting. We need to be sure that the educators we bring in are quality. We should go to teacher fairs. We should take community representatives with us to tout the community as well as the district, because it's a package deal. If someone doesn't like the community but it loves the school, they're going to stay. If the opposite is there, they're going to leave. And we need to try to figure out a way to stop this.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter?
I think Dr. Bittner's answer was fantastic. The greatest threat to our district is that Ottumwa-itis. You all know what I'm talking about, that we have a perception about ourselves and that we sell to people this sort of inferiority complex. This is a great district, and it's been a great district for a long time. Last night, my wife, who's a high school teacher, and I, we had dinner with a former student of hers who's going to Harvard Law School and just got a job offer for a law firm in New York City, one of the mega firms. She's gonna probably make more in her first year than I have in my career. And she came right from here, People don't ever talk about that or look at that. I think Dr. Bittner hit it right on the head.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman?
I think to talk about one big threat would be impossible. I think there's some little threats that make that big threat. I do agree about perception, because when people come to move here, when people want to start a business here, and I've been a lot involved in the community, when people want to move here, when people are thinking of coming here, there's a lot of jobs where people are promoted to. You can get on the internet, which is always fact. And then I say that with sarcasm. And you look at where our schools are rated, and you look at some of the comments. So and those perceptions are not verified. They're not valid. It may be people who have been here. It may be people who researched it. But the fact is, when people look at coming to Ottumwa or leaving Ottumwa, school systems are absolutely the first thing they look at. So I think there's a little threat. We don't want to lose our talent. I think there's a little threat that we lose our talent. We have a lot of talented teachers, and I think we may lose some, and we may not be able to draw in the talent we're wanting to draw in to add to the team because of some of those perceptions. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Ms. Manson?
I think there's a couple of threats, and one is perception, which we've done a good job of discussing, but I think the second threat is also financial. In order to be able to offer technology, to provide the facilities that we need, to be able to supply the teachers what they need, and be able to encourage all students to go out for extracurricular activities and do vocational education, we need funding. And I don't know that the state legislature right now quite agrees with as much money as I don't know that they quite agree that they need to continue to fund education at a high level. And in order to be able to solve a lot of the problems that we've talked about today, perception, technology, students being able to achieve at the high levels, that takes money. And so I think one of the other biggest, greatest threats to us is a financial problem.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Simonson?
Again, the largest threat to the district, and I think I've said it probably 3 times tonight, so I'll say it again, is resident student enrollment. And we need to increase that resident student enrollment. How we're going to do that is what drives that is the economic development. So we got to work on economic development, and how we're going to work on that is by nesting with the community. And we need to really get connected. And, right now there's a lot of competing initiatives out there. I mean, we got Legacy, everybody's doing all kinds of competing initiatives, but we got to combine them. We got to get it nested and get it together and keep the economic development here. And that's what's going to drive that resident student enrollment. And we just got to keep that going because, you're looking at district cost per pupil of $6,664. I mean, the bottom line is that district cost per pupil, bringing that up. And the only thing that's going to bring that up is more pupils. And we need to get that residents here. And then economic development is the key. And there's trust me, a ton of great things going on in Ottumwa. But the thing is, and Andy Davidson has been talking about with the city of Ottumwa, and he's got some initiatives, and Legacy's got initiatives, all that stuff. But we got to get it together because the economic development is going to drive to keep those residents here, and that's what's going to keep the students here.
Thank you, Ms. Youngman.
Before I go into the threat, I want to celebrate that this has been a dream not only of mine but of practically everybody I know. We finally will have this coming school year, 2018, if the weather is good and everything, we will have a wraparound preschool. That means a preschool where children can go to preschool. They can also stay and be taken care of. And the parents don't have to make situations to try to get their child here to there. They transfer them to a different district because that child has to be picked up at a certain time. And we, in our district, they have solved that problem. And I am very, very proud of that. Now, as far as the threat, it is financial in my eyes. That's where we're hurting. We have to be advocates. We have to talk to the legislators. If you are a board member, or if as a teacher through OEA, ISEA, we have the rights to go talk to legislators. We must not be afraid to advocate for more monies because we're hurting our young people and our school districts throughout the state of Iowa if we don't advocate for what is needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barr?
I'd agree with all the comments that were presented so far. Public perception, I have a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and that always comes up with people are sending their kids to Cardinal or another local surrounding district. And the reasons aren't necessarily consistent, and it's not necessarily for test scores or other reasons like that, so, but I think it's important to keep the residents, like Danny said, here. We cut checks in the millions of dollars every year to local districts around here. And, if we can keep that money here, we can do more for our own students. And so I think if we can turn that around, that would help everyone here. State funding, all districts in the state are affected by state funding. And so Ann said this, 1% to 2%, that's getting by, but that's not, that's not rich. So I think state funding is going to be an issue every year. So.
Thank you.
Okay. This will be our final question, and this question is from Melinda Padley Jones. What do you believe is the role of a school board member?
Mr. Carpenter, it's your turn to begin.
Thank you, Melinda. It's to be the buck stops here. It's to be ultimately accountable to the voters of the district and the taxpayers of the district and the students of the district. That's the role of a board member. I do believe in chain of command. I don't think the role of a board member is to get down into what principals and associate principals are supposed to be doing. And it's not for us to get in the classroom and tell you how to teach. But it is to be, where the buck stops and to try to take a big picture view of things. We're to be responsible for the budget. And that's pretty important. We're to be responsible for the policies at the high level and to make sure that they're being they're not just on paper, that they're being followed and they have life to them. I think that's really what a board member's role is.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman?
I think the role of school board member is number one, to be an advocate for the children, to make sure the children have everything they need, to make sure children are well taken care of and have what they need to learn, and we foster growth. I think it's also a financial responsibility to the taxpayer. I think it's a moral responsibility to be role models to our young people. It's a moral responsibility to be role models to everyone. It's all our job to be a role model to someone. I also don't think that a school board member's job stops with a few meetings a week. I also think you need to make time to be in schools. I think you need to make time to meet with parents. I think you need to make time to meet with children, because if you talk about teachers, parents, and children, look at the children. Just look at the children for a minute. They're the ones that ultimately have to live with the decisions we make. Teachers, you're the ones who ultimately have to live with financial decisions we would make. So the role of a school board member, like I said, to me, doesn't stop when you go home. It doesn't stop when a meeting's over. A decision's not made and then pushed to the side and never thought of again. The role of a school board member is to be an advocate for everybody involved in the school system, especially our children. You need to be in schools. You need to be communicating with parents. You need to be keeping the other leaders responsible and transparent.
Thank you. Ms. Manson?
I agree that you have as a school board member, you have a responsibility to the public. You also need to be an advocate for all students. You need to be an advocate for your staff and the administration to make sure that everybody's need is met, and that you have a financial responsibility to make sure that you are making good financial decisions. And in order to do that, you need to make sure that you listen to the public and you listen to parents, and that you listen to all the workers in the Ottumwa Community School District.
Thank you. Mr. Simonson?
Again, I agree with a lot of those answers they've been saying. And again, working with everybody, ultimately, we have the big three roles, which is legislative, administrative, and judicial. Legislative, we're going to adapt policies, work with policies, and because the goal for the adapting policies and stuff is giving the superintendent direction in order to manage, engage your staff, enable them to manage the district. And that's what we want to do, is work with those policies and make sure they're fit. And again, that's where we're working with that. And administration, of course, is, reviewing and improving the budget and contracts and those things like that. And of course, judicial is holding those hearings that are required by law if there's any appeals and those kind of things, working with that. But ultimately, like you said, is just working with, students. What's funny about all this forum and stuff, we're going to be elected as individuals, voting and that kind of stuff, but ultimately still it comes down to the majority. It takes the majority to pass that policy, the rule, or adapt something. So again, it's about working together as a team, moving the district forward in a positive manner, for the good of the students, and expressing those concerns that the parents have out there. And again, listening, keeping an open mind, working together with a collaborative agreement, and moving the district forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Youngman?
I believe that a school board member must be an advocate, must be a listener, must be proactive, must be a problem solver, decision maker, and also must not have people afraid to talk to them. I know what it has meant to me personally when we had board members come one-on-one, not more than one, come to a school and say, what are your needs? It wasn't to be a crisis. It was there to show that they cared. And that meant, and they gave you their phone number or they gave you their email. And that meant a lot, because that meant I had someone to listen to me. That doesn't mean it was to cause a problem. It was, if there's something that you had a question about, you go talk to them. And you also have to represent the district, your community, and everyone else. Being a board member means being fair, being a listener, communicator, and solving things when they aren't right.
Thank you. Mr. Barr?
Yeah, I think Ann nailed it. Probably listening is what a school board member does more than anything. A lot of listening, based on my observations. I'm setting board policy, administrative oversight, duty to the public, to do what is in the best interest of the students to provide a quality education and all that goes into that. And so, you know, wrapping those things together, I think that's what are the duties.
Thank you. Dr. Bittner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's horrible being last. This is one of those times when I have to abide by what I tout as my own quality. I'm a good listener, and you'll never have to guess what I'm thinking because I'm going to tell you. I've listened to what they've all said. I can't improve on that. I've said it. I'm willing to yield to whoever has a better statement. It's all been said here, and I'm just being honest and telling you that I agree with everything that's been said.
Thank you. We'll begin our, is it 1 minute? How are the closings? 1 minute? Yeah, okay, just checking. We'll begin with our 1 minute closings, and that will start with Mr. Hoffman.
First off, thank everybody for letting me speak. It was an opportunity. In closing, what I'd like you to remember when you walk out of here tonight, what I'd like everybody watching to remember is I'm a voice. I want to be your voice. I care deeply about our children. I'm a member of a number of volunteer organizations that all revolve around children and community. I will never take a concern lightly. Any concern, no matter how anyone else feels, large or small, I will take serious, and I will walk you through that. I will not direct you to anyone. And if I have to, I'll make sure that I stay with you and follow up the whole time. I want you to know that I'm very approachable at any time. Short of a family emergency or a disaster, you could call me at 2 o'clock in the morning. Just make sure to give me 10 seconds to wake up so I'm not talking gibberish. But I'm very approachable. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to help you to be that voice.
Thank you. Ms. Manson?
This has been an interesting night. We've covered a lot of different subjects. We've discussed Chapter 20. We've discussed technology, vocational development, educational, and the roles of school board members. I've listened to your questions, and I've enjoyed answering them. And through my answers, hopefully that you've learned a little bit better about what I think and where I stand on the issues. You may not always agree with my position, but I will always I want you to know I will always advocate for students and staff, and I will listen to your concerns. Thank you for coming or watching, depending upon which you are. And I hope to be able to continue this discussion as a member of the Board of Education. And remember to vote Tuesday, August 12th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Simonson?
I guess ditto. But again, like them, I'll be open listener. And I also, the biggest thing too is not only just listen, but follow up. I mean, I'll, definitely get back to you. Like Bill says, I know I've talked to board members in the evenings and phones because I know, they work different shifts, all those kind of things, same kind of thing. So I'll be open and flexible and being there and approachable and I'll be present. I mean, I'll be there and I'm committed. I'll do what I say and say what I'll do. And, so again, just being there for everybody and voice the concerns. One of the reasons why I'm here is because, a lot of parents know me and they, we always talk about stuff, but there comes a time when you put up or shut up. So I'm here to represent and help everybody out. Thank you.
Ms. Youngman?
I want to be a school board member because I know I have the qualities to do it. I know I've proven it in everything I've done with the school district through leadership. I feel that I am an advocate for my community. I'm an advocate for teachers, students, administrators, and my community. I want to be a school board member, and I want to make a positive difference. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Barr?
Thank you for coming. I'm excited to be a part of the board and give back to the community. Working there for 3 years, there's a lot of great people that work there. All the students are wonderful, and so I think I have a lot of good information to share. I could be an asset to the board, and I'm excited about the opportunity. So thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Bittner?
Yeah, thank you to the league for putting on this forum tonight. It was not near as onerous as I thought. In fact, it was actually kind of fun and enjoyable. I realized having been to a few meetings now, what it's going to take to be on this board, and it's going to require a lot of hard work. And I'm at a point in my life when I can do that. I think it's challenging. I've never backed away from a challenge. I'm up to the task. The qualities that I've gone over that I feel I possess and I presented to the board, they agreed and they appointed me for the interim position. So there's my my empowerment. I'll work hard, I'll be there, and I will always keep the students and teachers as number one. And I look forward to the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you. I don't pretend that I have all the answers. And one of the things that this process has taught me is the depth of my own ignorance about so many things. My promise to you, if elected to the school board, is that I will learn. And it's that I will listen and that I will learn. And I will do my best to be a good board member without faction and without side, to do what's best for the children of Ottumwa.
Thank you.
Well, we ran over a little bit, and I hope you guys, that was okay with you. Wonderful questions. I was really impressed with the questions that we got. I thought, and you did a good job listening. You guys did a good job listening and a good job answering questions to the best of your ability. I think it's going to be a real hard decision to make. Again, the 12th is the election. Tuesday, the 12th. Noon. It doesn't start early, so I don't have to get up early to go to the polls. But we do not know yet whether or not there's going to be a primary for the city election. As soon as we know that, we'll be setting up plans for a forum for that. Definitely there will be a forum for the actual city election. Other than that, I just want to say we've got room for more members. Anytime anybody wants to be a member, I've got brochures. It's actually kind of fun. It's not, I mean, it is political, but it's not political. We do not talk politics. I personally don't know what everybody's affiliation is, and that's fine. And they probably don't know mine because it kind of changes from election to election. But so it's a process. It's an ability to educate voters, to educate ourselves, to give to the community. And I think this is an excellent example of trying to give back to the community. We have, it was very phenomenal that we had that many people want to be on the board, and you guys were all well-spoken and thoughtful, and again, I think it's going to be a hard decision for people. But we're done. So thank you very much for attending.